Welcome back everyone to 3D Cartoon Review, where the world of Soul Land2, the unrivaled Tang sect comes alive through storytelling. In this episode, the story takes a sharp turn into both the depths of the human heart and the frozen abyss beneath the earth. The cold at the bottom of the Earth Dragon Sect's well was not the ordinary bite of winter. It was the silence beneath winter, the kind that presses against bone, that turns breath to glass and thought to slow white currents. When Huo Yuhao slipped from the stone lip and let his body fall, what kissed his face was water colder than zero, a darkness that swallowed light and sound together. For anyone else it would have been death. For a soul master bearing the ultimate ice, it was just barely cool. The rope of bubbles rising past his cheeks caught the dim shine from above as he sank. Shuishui had said the shaft was only 30 meters deep, but Yuhao trusted his senses more than any map. He sent his spiritual power down like a beam. The well did not end where rumor ended, it fell much deeper. At the very bottom, something was flowing, a spring that breathed a hard, relentless cold into the world. Find the secret cavern. That was the goal. At around 25 meters, Yuhao flattened a palm against the rock and let his fingers walk the wall. Stone has a memory. This one remembered hands. There, a faint ridge, a shy bulge beneath algae-slick skin. He set his stance, called up a thread of strength no more than 40%, gentle for him, and pushed. The entire wall shivered. Stone cracked the silence with a low, grinding moan. A seam widened into a mouth. From the gap, a gust of cold came out that made the well water itself feel warm by comparison. Yuhao did not hesitate. He arrowed his body through. The instant he crossed the threshold, an unseen force swept across his skin. The water peeled away from him in a single sheet, hissing back into the passage until he stood bone dry. He had one heartbeat to register the miracle before a wave of extreme cold lunged at him. The Ice Empress's armor blossomed over his body in a gleam of blue-white. The impact slid off the barrier with a thin metallic whine. Inside was pure night. Yuhao raised a hand and called softly, "Bing Di." The Ice Empress answered with light. Jade-green radiance spilled from her form and rolled across the chamber, and both of them stopped breathing. The cave was a palace chiseled by gods. Its bones were crystal, not the clear kind of glassy mountain ice, but a sea blue veined with slow, luminous threads like frozen lightning. The floor, the ceiling, and the distant towers of mineral all gleamed with the same imperial hue. The light from the Ice Empress fractured and rewove itself until it looked as if stars had been sewn underfoot. Bing Dai's eyes widened like a child seeing a lost homeland. She shot upward, voice cracking with a joy that sounded like madness. This is the 10,000-year Profound Ice Grotto? By the heavens! And even mixed with extreme ice divine crystal. How can a place like this exist in the human world? The words hit Yuhao like a bell. The 10,000-year Profound Ice Grotto, its value was said to rival the lake of life that nourished the beast god Tian. And the extreme ice divine crystal, a metal as contradictory as fate itself, harder than any steel, yet pliant under the right hand. If Bing Di and the Snow Empress had found this back then, the thought slid through Yuhao's mind, they might have broken through to become gods. A second presence coiled out of the jade light, lazy and bright. Skydream Iceworm exhaled, like a storyteller settling into his best tale. "Oh, it exists," he chuckled. "I reached 1,000,000 years by gorging on profound ice marrow in a grotto exactly like this, in the extreme north." Yuhao didn't answer. Curiosity had already led his hand to a nearby pillar of pale blue metal. He flexed his dark golden terror claw and raked down. Sparks spat. The metal did not even flinch, only a faint smear marked the attack. "How do we mine something like this?" he murmured. "Ultimate ice," Bing Dai laughed, the sound rich with pride. "Try your own force." Yuhao set his palm on the crystal and pushed the essence of his element through skin and bone into the blue metal. The change was immediate and startling. The aloof hardness in the crystal turned toward him like a beast recognizing a king. The metal softened, not in weakness, but in welcome, flowing under his hand like solemn water. "They have ice spirits," Yuhao realized, eyes narrowing. "They only bow to ultimate ice." He stopped being polite. With a breath, he unfolded the snowy dance of ultimate ice domain. It unfurled like a cloak, covering the cave in slow silver. Under its will, the extreme ice divine crystal yielded. Yuhao worked quickly, but with reverence carving blocks, sorting by size and purity, sealing each into his storage with a craftsman's care. The grotto slowly shed its riches. Yuhao gathered them all and turned toward the exit. He emerged from the well to find Nan Shuishui and Nan Qiuqiu. The Vietnamese called them Nam Thuy Thuy and Nam Thu Thu standing at the edge, twin shadows carved from worry. Qiuqiu darted forward first. "Are you okay?" Yuhao shook his head lightly, no wounds, only awe, and lifted a block of blue-white crystal that made the sun blush. "A true treasure ground," he said, unable to hide his grin. "A special metal indeed," he explained quickly. "Only ultimate ice could temper it. Only someone like him could forge it." He promised that when he shaped these into soul tools, Earth Dragon Sect would receive a share, no mere token, but a real portion. Nan Shuishui's smile softened into something almost maternal. "To be honest," she said, "I had planned to make that my daughter's dowry, but once I decided to give it to you, it became yours. You are Qiuqiu's friend. From now on, call me Auntie." There was a hint in that word that Yuhao pretended not to notice. He bowed, steady and respectful. Then, "Thank you, Auntie." Qiuqiu came up with a theatrically plaintive face and tugged his sleeve. "When you forge your soul tools, I must have a share." They laughed, the three of them standing in borrowed sunlight at the edge of a well that swallowed breath. When his report was finished, Yuhao hesitated, and then spoke the truth. "Auntie," he said, "one thing more. While I was below, I sensed something deeper. Past the grotto, near the spring source, there may be another heavenly cavern. I want to go down again." Nan Shuishui's eyes gleamed with a look every young man fears and secretly wants the mother-in-law appraising a future son-in-law. "Go," she said simply. Yuhao nodded once and dove. This time, he fell with a hunter's purpose. The target was the 10,000-year Profound Ice Marrow, the source stone milk that had fed legends. He slipped past the opening to the crystal grotto and kept descending. The cold thickened from the outside in. It was no longer weather but weight. Pressure compressed his ribs. Even his ultimate ice soul power began to crawl rather than flow. It was too much, even for him. At his shoulder, Bingdi flashed into being. She did not speak. Snow Empress answered her with a nod. Together they spun a shielding ring, two queens of winter shaping a corridor of survivable cold. Octagonal mysterious icegrass wriggled free and tucked itself into the weave, its presence like a clear thought in a storm. The well narrowed, became a throat. At the mouth of the spring, Yuhao tried to send his spiritual power forward and found the space viscous. His mind slipped like a boot in mud. Even thought had to push to move. Bingdi frowned, eyes narrowing to razors. "The energy here is beyond the extreme. Let me..." She sent a thin spike of her own spiritual sense into the dark. It vanished like a needle into velvet. A moment later she pulled back, and her beautiful face had lit with a fierce, almost hungry excitement. She waved an arm. "Go in." Yuhao drew breath, what little there was, and pushed his body through the spring's jaw. The cold bit like a million steel needles. He had never been this deep. The water around him became a clenched fist. His lungs screamed. His skull rang like a struck bowl. Flesh and will both neared their edges, but he pressed, all strength bound into a single deliberate dive, and then release. His body shot into a small chamber, and all water fell away. He collapsed to the floor at once, and inhaled out of reflex. Air knifed his throat. The cold in that breath ran down into him and froze not only muscle and blood, but the space between thoughts. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to white light and the clean snap of ice inside the soul. On his forehead, the eye of destiny opened of its own will. Deep within, the soul core spun into a storm. It poured power through his mind, undoing the frost that had taken hold of his spirit. Even so, the body remained locked. Only consciousness could move, like a man awake inside a statue. "Bingdi," he whispered with his mind. She flared into being, carrying light like a lantern in a cave. The chamber bloomed into view, 10-odd pillars of white jade ice rising from floor to ceiling. Inside each translucent column, a liquid flowed sluggishly, blue-white and heavy as opal. 10,000-year Profound Ice Marrow. Bingdi breathed, the hunger in her voice naked now. "This place has it. We can use it to condense new bodies. Then if anything happens to Yuhao, we can leave, search for another host." Yuhao, trapped inside his frozen frame, did not flinch. His answer rode the thin thread between souls. "Good, it's good. Do it, all of you fuse." The command was born of love and fear, both the love that wants one's companions to live, the fear of being unable to save them when fate stumbles. No. The word cracked across the chamber like a whip. Skydream Iceworm's tone lost its music. Bing bing, that's not right. We chose Vuorharo. If you fashion bodies now, you're choosing to leave. Bing Di turned her head and looked at the ancient worm's soul eye with a question as cold as the room. If I choose to leave, she asked softly, will you come with me? The air held its breath. And there, the chapter ended on a cliff's edge carved of cold and promise, a cave that could make spirits flesh, a treasure that could tempt loyalty into hesitation, and a young man locked in ice whose heart had already decided to give everything so that others did not have to. What came before this moment was simple in the telling and complex in the keeping. A secret door opened under a well where the water ran colder than death. A crystal palace revealed its hoard of extreme ice divine crystal, a metal that only ultimate ice would accept. A boy who had learned to bow to no winter harvested what the world had hidden while promising a share to those who called him friend. A glance from a leader to a youth said what titles cannot sun, and the youth answered with the right kind of modesty. A second dive tested the edges of body and mind until even Ice Empress and Snow Empress had to give their shield, and even then it nearly wasn't enough. A spring mouth tried to swallow a destiny, and the eye of destiny forced it to let go. A room full of profound ice marrow offered a way to recreate bodies, and with it, a question as old as loyalty. Do we stay or do we prepare to leave? The grotto waited, patient as glaciers. The marrow slid within its columns like time itself, slow and unbothered by the drama of smaller lives. Yuhao's breath came back in threads. The frost in his spirit retreated under the steady whirl of the soul core. Snow Empress stood beside Ice Empress, unreadable as winter moonlight. Octagonal mysterious icegrass trembled, sensing that what was about to be decided here would change the tone of every step they took afterward. Yuhao could not move. He did not need to. His answer had been in his first response. Good, fuse. Let them have bodies. Let them live. Let them be safe even if I fall. That was the vow inside the command. Skydream's objection was not logic. It was love screaming in the language of duty. If you prepare a door, he warned, one day you may walk through it. And still his question tangled with Bing Di's. If she leaves, will I follow? Beneath them, the ice did what ice does endure. Above them, the world turned without knowing that a decision was hatching in a cold place that could thaw destinies or freeze them where they stood. The scene held like a breath at the top of a dive. And that is where episode 128 rests. At the threshold of a choice, surrounded by treasure older than empires, with the ultimate ice singing in a young man's veins and his companions weighing the cost of a door that leads away from him. We'll follow them deeper next time. The marrow, the bodies it might forge, the promise it threatens, and the loyalty it might prove. For now, remember this. The brightest cold is not cruel, it is clear. And in that clarity, Huo Yuhao chose for others. Whether they choose for him is the question that waits on the far side of this breath.